cover most of the stretches that I do on a typical day-to-day. So to start, take a deep breath in and then focus on the chest. Then you head to the side, place your palm on the side of your head, and gently move your head down towards your shoulder. Make sure you breathe deeply, don't rush, take your time. If you feel that you need to spend longer on any particular stretch, by all means, pause the video and do that. And just so you guys are aware, like when I stretch, like I really stretch. So take your time. We're going to be here for a while. I'm going to switch to the other side now. Same thing again. Place the palm on the side of your head and gently pull it down. If you need to dim the lights, you can. The neck is a great place to start. We carry a lot of attention around our neck, just for normal day-to-day life, as well as breaking, of course, being on the floor with freezes so long. When you start practicing Halo, yeah, this stretch will become part of your essential stretches. I tried my best to find some really nice, relaxing music for you guys, so you can just sort of follow along. And I promise I won't talk too much unless it's necessary. Give the shoulders a little roll, just further and loosening that area. Now you're going to place both hands on the back of your head and gently, very gently, you're going to pull down, so chin to chest. You don't need to apply much force for this at all. You could even do this without pushing down. One more deep breath. Exhale all the way out. Begin to come up and release. Move your shoulders and your neck just to loosen that area again. Next, we're going to go into the shoulders. So as you can see, I've got my arm across my chest, and then I hooked my other arm underneath, just above the elbow to lock it into place. I'm looking in the opposite direction of my arm, and I'm breathing very deeply as I pull closer each time I breathe out. Now we're going to go to the other side, swing your arms to release.
Bboy, quer fazer alongamento?
And don't forget to breathe. Stretching can be a real weakness for some brainers because our body's under tension for such a long period of time. It can be quite frustrating, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. And release. Gently swing your arms down, reach above your head, and clasp your hands together at the top. I'm still extending my two index fingers and pressing them together. Now lean to the side. I'm trying to make sure that my arms are touching my ears and I'm leaning to the side, keeping my hips facing forwards and my chest facing forwards as well. So it's literally just giving a nice stretch to the lats, which is super useful later when you're on your bum and you're stretching one of your hamstrings and bringing your head towards your knee. And breath can get shallow in these positions, so just remember to breathe, take your time, and don't go too far if it's uncomfortable for you. And release. Excellent. Good job. Take a big exhale. Swing your arms, get loose. Assume a very lazy horse stance position and begin to twist. Here we'll really loosen up our lower back and our twist range of motion. This is essential and important for breaking. Our power comes from the twist. Our movement comes from the twist. So it's very important not to neglect. Alright, hands on hips. Let's loosen up that pelvis. Take your time. We're going to go into half circles, half semicircles. Good. Loosen that a little bit. Turn it to the side and go into our first lunge. As you can see, I'm supporting myself with my elbows on my knee, but I'm now going to remove them to add in some strength conditioning with our passive stretching. 3, 2, 1, and release. Bring both hands down to the inside of your front leg. If this is too challenging for you, no problem at all. Just place both elbows back on top of the knee and return to the original lunge position we first went into. Slowly stand up when ready. Use all the strength in your legs to do so. Turn and pivot to the other side. Adjust. Find where it's comfortable. Same thing. And stretch. We're now going to repeat our conditioning and hold.
No se da, me iba a cambiar.
Either return hands to the knee or bring them both down to the floor. Just make sure you remember to breathe. As you've probably guessed at this point already, I'm not exactly counting, I'm just going off of feeling and stretching the muscles as much as I feel they need to be stretched. And return to standing. I'm going to turn to the side so for a better view. You don't actually have to do this. We're just going to keep our legs straight. I'm going to touch our toes. With each exhale, try and sink a little bit lower into the stretch. At the moment, I'm looking directly at the floor. Eventually, I'm going to relax the head, so I'm completely relaxed in my top half, and I'm looking at the knees. And if it's comfortable for you, fold the arms and let gravity do its magic. Just as a heads up, I stay here for about 20 seconds. I really like this stretch, and if it's uncomfortable for you, come back up, mobilize again, shake it out, and then when you're ready, get back down into the stretch. And come up, reposition yourself, shake it out, point at the screen, say what's up, and go into a downward dog position. Your heels shouldn't be touching the floor, so you can feel a nice stretch in the calf muscle. You also want to try and imagine placing your chest on top of your thighs. This will give your shoulders a nice stretch. Now shift your feet together and we're going to go into a cobra. It's really easy to hold your breath in this position, so do make sure that you continue to breathe. As you can see in the video, I'm sort of mobilizing my hips a little bit. I find that it works for me, but you don't have to do that. I think it's important to know that I don't actually spend as much time as I probably should stretching my back, but it's definitely something I'm going to be working on as we move forward into the future, and it's definitely something I'll share with you guys more. And push back into a child's pose. Here you can really relax, unwind, and release all the tension built up from the other stretches. And now it's time to stretch the quads. I have my right foot tucked underneath my butt, and I gradually start to slide backwards. You don't have to lean back, it can be quite challenging getting back up from this position. So just stretch as much as the muscle needs. And now we're going to come up and repeat the same thing on the other side. If you do decide to lay back like myself, you can see that I'm using my hands by pressing them into the floor, which gradually lowers my body weight down, rather than just dropping down suddenly. And up you come, and we're going to go into our butterfly stretch. And from this stretch onwards, I'm most focusing on the stretches that have helped me for power moves. So here you can see my arms are locked in place behind me. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to pull my knees down to the floor, using just the muscles in my legs to do so. And relax, loosen up the legs. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab myself a chair. And with this chair, this is basically for you guys just to demonstrate how I originally practiced getting into the box splits, which is really useful for power moves. The chair is basically a safety mechanism. It's a barrier between you and the floor to make sure that you don't split and hurt yourself. So here I'm demonstrating leaning my body weight onto the chair. You can use a stool or anything else that's slightly elevated to really help control your splits. If this position is comfortable for you, stay here, but I'm now going to come up and put the chair back, and I'm going to go into the box splits without using the chair. Alright guys, so the previous stretches were all relatively general stretches, but I think now it's time to sort of just be hyper aware of what you can and can't do. This is what I use for power. This helps me. but you don't actually have to do this. So we're going to go into the box split first by using your leg muscles to control the drop as you descend down into the stretch. Maintain some level of strength that you would otherwise lose from passive stretching. And now you'll notice that I'm starting to lean slightly forward, which targets another area of the legs and the hips, which is what we need to relax and to be flexible. Now you'll notice I'm pushing backwards to sit down on my bum, but obviously I'm going to place one hand behind myself to control that descent down so I don't lose any grip and I don't lose any wideness in my stretch. Both your hands nice and wide and reach. I like to reach first just to feel out my hamstrings. I like to reach past my toes at first and then reach forward just very gradually. Start leaning to the side and back to the other side. This is more like just gentle mobilization, just getting my body used to this stretch. So the next bit I'm going to change position just for the camera so you guys do not copy this. I'm just literally going sideways just to repeat so you can just see how far forward I'm actually coming before I then switch back to this position here, hold for a little bit. Just remember to breathe deeply and just focus on the stretching, really trying to have that mind-muscle connection. It's really important that you pay attention to your body during the whole time when you're stretching like this. As you can see, more mobilization before I ask my body to go into a different kind of stretch. I find that really helps me, and it just helps get the body ready and also just lets me know if the body's ready, basically. So again, head to knee, I'm reaching over my other arm to touch my foot, and this is where the lat stretch that we did at the beginning of this video comes in handy. And now switch to the other side. Sometimes I'll do this stretch on both sides, maybe twice, 3 times. It all depends if my body's really feeling it, where it needs this kind of stretching, like level of stretching, and it gets a little bit uncomfortable staying in one position for so long. I'll just go to the other side, and then I'll come back to this side, and then I'll repeat that again until I'm feeling that my body's really relaxed and comfortable in these positions. And slowly you can bring your head back up to a seated position. You guys don't need to do this bit. I'm just going to re-change my angle for the benefit of the camera for you guys. But all you have to do is lean forward and get back into this position here. Now for the conditioning section, we're going to resist our legs and go. Resist. Keep going. And relax. Same again, get ready and contract. And relax. Now let's change position. I'm going to side split. Notice that my back foot, the inside of my foot, is touching the floor for this one first. But we will eventually switch this over and lean a little bit more backwards. And there you go, I switched to the top part of my foot and leaning a little bit more backwards, trying to get my back up and straight. I'm now going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Relaxing, breathing, taking my time. Again, pivot to the top part of the foot. And relax. I'm now going to return to the box split sort of position, but sit straight back down on top up. I'm now going to try and work on the pancakes. That means leaning forward as much as possible I think in this video is a really good example because today my body just doesn't want a pancake. So what I have to eventually do is start doing some other stretches and come back to the pancake before I can actually get all the way down. I mean, if you guys can get all the way down, by all means, try that now. But I'm going to show you some examples of things that I do to sort of get my body ready to do that. If you're as close to the pancake as I am, I'm struggling a little bit getting lower, so what I start to do is mobilize from side to side, which eventually does loosen me up. It just takes a while. Like obviously, you are going to be the best judge of where you feel tight, and mobilization can really help loosen up those areas so you can stretch a little bit more. So what I'm doing here now is I'm spreading my arms out, applying pressure into my hands. That way it keeps my chest upright and doesn't stop me from falling down and hurting myself, basically. I can, of course, relieve the pressure each time I feel comfortable enough to go that little bit further down to the ground. For me, this is just about adjusting and readjusting, not applying too much pressure onto the body, but also making it somewhat of a challenge for you. The goal for me at this stage is maintenance, but for many of you, it might be for improvement. And when you're ready, start to come up very slowly, take your time. Exhale all the way up as you come up. Wiggle your toes and your feet, then start to give your legs a shake. Then bring the legs in, which is actually quite challenging. And then give your legs a bounce. And I'm laughing here because it's painful. Now I'm pulling my legs in to give a few bounces in the butterfly stretch position, just to mobilize once again. Folding my leg behind me allows me to stretch the quad for just a little bit before I start to mobilize my hip. And now to mobilize the hip again. And now repeat on the other side before we start our final sequences of stretches. This leg feels a little bit tighter for me, so I'm just going to stay here a little bit longer before again mobilizing my hip. Next, I'm going to go into some conditioning exercises I do with my legs, which you can do too, and will help you build some strength, maintain some strength. And it's also a good little mobility tool as well, especially after a long stretch like this, and even more so when we're going to stretch again for the second time. Place both hands in the middle, fingertips are easier than flat-handed, and lift and pulse the legs backwards in a circle motion. Then you're going to stretch a little wider once again. And you can use your fingers, how I'm doing here, to sort of shift my legs backwards. Obviously, you need to be relatively flexible to be able to do that, but it's a good technique when you are flexible if your legs slide out of position. And here I'm just readjusting for the benefit of the camera. As you guys can imagine, I'm going for the pancake stretch because that's my base level, that's my maintenance level, so that's what I'm going for. After a bit of mobilization and mobility, I do believe that it's getting much easier, especially going back into the stretch again for the second time. Stretching truly is the long game, especially when we're stretching to acquire moves or to make the acquisition of moves easier, like flares, air flares, and things like that. Because obviously you don't need to be super flexible to have these moves, but it does make them easier, makes them more consistent, etc. And now we're going to begin that stretching cycle once again. By the end of this cycle, I should be able to get down into a pancake position. Controlling the descent down, leaning all the way forward, I then fold my legs in underneath me, going into this position I learned from a Thai boxer friend of mine. Remember, stay connected to your breath, really try and open up the chest so it's easier for you to breathe and get the air all the way into your lungs and through your body. If it's possible for you, you can then gradually place your hands on your thighs and sit and relax. Leaning forward now, I press into the floor and using the strength of my legs to slide the knees along the floor, but bringing them close together so I can change position to a new stretch. I'm going to be setting up myself for another deep lunge. Going to definitely be using a lot of my own leg strength as well for this. I'm also going to be making sure I keep up with conditioning by using the strength of my legs to hold my body weight up, although, however, you can see that I am resting one elbow on my knee. And now bringing the right hand down and pulsing gently back and forth, very gently, very gradually, just to include some mobilization into the stretch. Now I'm going to gradually switch sides and repeat the same pulsing action on the other side as it felt really good on the previous side. Remember, long and deep inhales followed by a long drawn out exhale is the best way to relax the body. And if you don't breathe, you're probably going to have a tough time stretching. And I'm getting into my martial arts splits again, or front splits or box splits. Many different names I've learned over the years. But getting into this, start mobilizing my ankles a little bit, my feet, just trying to loosen up the body without putting too much stress on the body. And eventually sitting down. If you notice, I place my other hand behind me to alleviate the impact of me sitting down so my muscles don't chud up or shake. Some light mobility work with a little tap on my leg, indicating where it is tight for me. I'm going to use one hand for support on this one, and I'm going to draw a half circle with my chest, basically. So if there was a pen on my chest, I'm drawing on the floor, trying to draw a sort of half circle, and switch hands, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Do a nice big half circle, and that will especially loosen up all the muscles around the groin area. Giving my feet a little wiggle, patting my legs, just to make sure that the blood's still circulating. And if you notice here, I sort of push myself a little further forward, but by doing so, it pushes the middle of my body forward, and the heels are anchored into the floor, so it acts like it's actually pulling my legs a little wider, basically, so I can get a little bit more of a wider stretch. As I relax down, I feel a lot more loose this time around. Again, I start to play with my ankles, rest my forearms and my head on the floor. Of course, if you can't do this, don't even stress it. Wherever you feel an active stretch, that's exactly where you need to be. So you do not need to be able to go down to a pancake like how I'm performing here. It's really satisfying when I can get to this range. Being brutally honest, this made training flare up, so flare, handstand, flare, air flare, much easier for me. And you know, when I had done this stretch either the night before or the morning before, when you'd walk into training in the late afternoon or the evening, you'd so feel the difference and how easy and light you were in terms of when you're performing power. You see, I'm smiling now because I'm pretty much there. I reckon I'm going to get it on the next one. As you can see, I'm just taking a minute for myself, breathing, getting my mind right for doing the pancake. So I'll take this opportunity while I'm sitting here not really doing much just to explain a few things to you guys. As I've said, stretching is the long game. It's not an easy process. It's not a fast process. You should also never really feel that your body's under too much stress and too much pain. it should be moderately uncomfortable. And if you keep doing it all the time, it's the incremental gains, okay? It's the slow gain. You don't want to sort of, and now I'm going into this sort of swan dive stretch, which I picked up from martial arts. As it still keeps us conditioned and strong, it's more active than passive, obviously. And you can really lower yourself down, and then pulling yourself back up is a great little tool as well. So I'm going to do this for a few reps, and it works like a charm. Some further light mobility work, because this is the one. Some further light mobility work, and before I go into my final attempt at the pancake. And here we go with the swan dive conditioning stretch once again. Trying to touch my shoulder down, then my other shoulder down, of course, put the arms down, turn the head, and completely relax. Ever so slowly, what I'll start to do is, instead of just having my chest down, I'll try to sort of lean a little forward, gradually, and put my stomach down. Use the arms to push away from the floor, bringing your body back up to upright. I'm finished now, so it's just about mobilizing the legs. Bringing them in, breathing heavy because this bit's hard. And I'm doing my little bounce again just to wake the legs up. This bit's actually quite tough. Bouncing, bringing them in, and then what I'm going to do is some really light and easy mobility stretch for myself, for the lower back and the glutes. And that's all I'm going to do, which is left. So obviously, as you can see, guys, like I do tend to take my time, a bit of conditioning here, lay it on my back, pulsing the knees up and down. Use a straight leg and open the legs. I'm keeping, obviously, the legs off the floor, turning my heels all the way in like I would for a flare position, pointing the toes this time, flexing the heels, bringing them in, etc., etc. I tuck the knees up as far as I can, and then turn to the side, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just twisting, just getting that twist in the lower back, which is really nice. And now this swinging movement, which is a really cool one, like what you can start to see is I'll draw my toe on the floor, and as I get to the front, I will pivot the legs around like so. So you've got a semicircle with the toe, and it's really nice way to loosen up the hamstring and also put more target into the lower back for me. If I grab the leg like this, I end up stopping the leg from swinging, and it gives me a nice twist. Swing to the other side, and do the same thing, grab the leg, twist to the other side, breathe. And this bit's all super chill with this bit. Having a good twist flex is also useful for power moves because it just means you've got more range for your torque as your legs come to swing through. I'll explain more about that in an actual power move tutorial. Now for the glute stretch, what I tend to do is I always start on the right side first. The glute on my right side is so much tighter than on my left. So I always start on this side first. What I'm trying to do is line my shoulder up with my heel and my other shoulder up with my knee. Switching to the other side. The left side, I probably won't spend as long on this side just because this side is so much more flexible and it's much easier to stretch without the stress. So I can get down further, faster, therefore not needing to stretch as long. But this is the final stretch, guys. If you've made it this far, give yourselves, well, wait until we're finished and then congratulate yourselves. But we're almost there, guys, we're almost there. And we are done, look at that. We're done. Getting up, getting ready to shake it out, loosen it out, look at the camera, give yourselves a round of applause. Well done you, well done me. I was actually quite proud of myself there, guys. High five, air high five, corona resistant virtual high five. Boom. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you're new, like the video if you like it.
Yeah.